Alright, so we've been working for days filling these boxes, and I'll talk about soil quality in a minute because this has been an issue. But I've got some, this is basically my salad greens and root veg box. There's some radishes, some arugula, you can tell it's starting to come up, some romaine, butter crunch, which that's the kind of lettuce you pick from the outside. We'll get into that as soon as we're ready. And lettuces, more romaine, some spinach, and some Swiss chard here on the end. Over here, we've got some more root veg. We have some beetroot and turnip. Some giant spinach, which grows a little bit different than like the small salad spinach. And then more Swiss chard. I've got leeks started, and okra, which probably shouldn't have gone there because okra plants grow kind of large, but it takes them a while. So this big box here, we're not done filling it with the dirt. This will be probably my potato bed. But we just got some fill. So it's really kind of just sandy. There's no organic matter. Now under this, we have wood and, some rotting wood and some other vegetation to try to feed the dirt. But this is not good quality dirt, which is good for the purpose of the video. I can show you, you can grow and poor quality dirt. Now, in these two beds, I have mixed in, this is upside down, some humus and manure to try to richen up the soil so that the plants do better. I'm going to be planting here shortly. The other thing that I've done is thrown in some of my kitchen scraps down below the soil. A lot of coffee grounds, because those are high in nitrogen. Anything green is going to be high in nitrogen, and coffee grounds are considered a green ingredient. But that's just to feed, any microbes that are in there. The bag of stuff that I just showed you, I mixed 2 bags in this soil and this soil. And that is, I just dumped it on top and used a rake and kind of mixed it in. I didn't do such a hot job over here. Still big clumps I'll have to get rid of. But I'm almost ready to plant in these beds. And I have some trellis wound up here. Some fencing to make for peas and beans and cucumbers to grow up. It makes them easier to pick. These are pole beans. You can get bush beans, which grow, on plants about this tall. So either one that works for you. I like vertical gardening because it allows me to grow more in a smaller space. Now I've actually been sequestered for over a week. I did not have COVID-19, but I wound up with bronchitis, which, if your lungs are already compromised, you certainly don't want to be getting COVID. If you're otherwise healthy, your chances are good, but with a compromised set of lungs, which I think you can probably still hear it in me, yeah. So I was not allowed to leave my house for the last week. Our state guidelines, according to my doctor, are you are not allowed to return to work till you've been 3 days with no symptoms. So while I still sound a little funny, yeah. I never ran a fever, but my temperature did drop significantly. It's like 96.9. So there's a lot of hot showers and blankets. But it does make breathing a challenge, so a lot of coughing and feeling like drowning. Thank you, Sasha. So I've worked as much as I can outside. But yeah, the fatigue kind of slowed me down a little bit. Okay, soil amendments. You'll hear people talk about soil amendments a lot, but not necessarily tell you what that is. Amending the soil just means taking, generic, sterile soil and beefing it up. And you can beef it up several different ways. One, you can put yard and kitchen scraps straight into the ground. Now, you don't want to disturb your plants doing that, but that's a way to like immediately compost. And as little critters are in there eating that, it will feed the soil and moisten up the soil. The other thing organic matter does is it retains moisture, okay? Because you don't want them sitting in water, but you want the moisture there to keep those roots nice and healthy. And I showed you what I've done so far. Some more hay or straws going down. And I'll actually probably end up putting wood chip on top. But we'll see what I can get my hands on. Right now, the sources that I usually use are closed down because of everything going on. But I'm going to have to get creative, which isn't so bad because I can show you, what I've done to try to amend this really crappy soil, because I want a decent harvest this year. I want to can a lot, which I haven't done in years. But because of the state of things, which I think is probably why a lot more people are turning to gardening right now. I was talking to a guy at the garden center, and he said he's never seen so many people buying seeds. And starting from seeds is a little bit harder than starting from starts. For a lot of plants, like tomatoes, usually, they do better if you can get a start for your first-time gardener. But you can start from seed. Just start indoors. I have a robin, hanging out. So anyway, we'll get to planting here. I could ramble on forever, and that's not what you want to hear. Okay, so what I have in these 2 cups is peas and green beans. I just had them soaking in water. You do not have to do this. I just found it helps a little with germination. I also have some peas germinating in the house. And this is actually my own little experiment because it's still getting quite cold here in Northwest Indiana at night. We're in zone 5. It's a little bit before our last frost date. So if you're going to plant early like that, what you need to do is cover them up at night so that if there is any frost, it's not going to kill off your plants. So all I'm doing here, I talked about soil quality. Soil that clumps up like this is not the best. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's not the best either. So let's see, what do I want? Green beans or peas? I think I'll do the green beans here. Green beans are heavy feeders, so under here is where I put those kitchen scraps I was talking about. Some coffee, some lettuce, and some eggshells. Eggshells take a very, very long time to break down, but they do add calcium to your soil. So I'll just pour out some water over here. My beans. These are beans that we saved from last year's crop. Not all of them will actually take off. So I just spread them about. Cover them up. Those are actually planted a little closer than they recommend, but again, I know that they won't all take off. If they do, I'll be really, really, really surprised. And over here, I have my sugar snap peas, and I've got quite a bit of seeds of this. This is something that we'll actually eat a lot of fresh. I've never canned sugar snap peas. I don't know how well they can. From experience, I mean, some people will tell you can can just about anything, but it does change, like asparagus. If you ever had canned asparagus, it is worlds different than fresh. So just getting the soil mixed in here a little bit, breaking up some big chunks. Get myself a little trench. And my dogs are using this as a toilet. That's fantastic. Okay. Same thing on the other side. Change the camera angle here so you can see what I'm doing. But I'm just really making sure some of that manure is mixed in down where I'm about to plant my seeds. Because what's the point of putting nutrients in the soil if it's not near the seed? You don't have to plant these very deep. Watch where I'm stepping over here. And just drop them in a few inches apart. And we'll cover them up. A germination, the reason I'm germinating some of these inside, germination usually takes place in a warmer temperature. And as I said, it is still getting quite cold at night. We've got temperatures in the 20s at night coming the next week or so. It's starting to warm up though. Our last frost date is supposed to be, I think, the 23rd. So it's warming up. So just cover this up. And when I say water these in, it's just making sure that soil's nice and damp, which it's already nice and damp, but I also want to get that soil in a little bit denser around the seeds. Now, you don't need to pack it in like that or step on it or anything, but just watering it in will definitely break down some of that soil and get it closer into the seed so it has something to hold on to when it roots. And that is it for planting my peas and green beans.